We are on the air. Yay! Okay, so believe it or not, we are in week 3, which doesn't make sense, but we are, right? So chapter 2, I know we kind of started off a little slow with this one. So chapter 2, we're going to work on functions, data types, and operators with JavaScript. Again, a lot of what we're doing, how does JavaScript address it? How do they do it compared to other languages? Every language kind of has their own nuances for doing that, but this is how we do it in chapter 2. So go to Learning Units. We'll be working in Unit 2, Chapter 2. Everything is kind of set the same way. I've got a little tag here about mathematical calculations. Each unit, again, has its own videos also built in addition to what I'm recording right now. These are not recorded by me. These are up here. And these notes are also not by me. These are by another instructor. So if I click on Unit 2 Lecture Notes, Christian, her, there you go. So you got. I figured it makes no sense for me to get rid of this stuff. I mean, this is good information. You can have it. Doesn't matter who the instructor is. So there's a lot of good notes here. You can print them off. You'll be sleeping and dreaming about JavaScript. It's some good information. So you've got all the there's a lecture. He's got a lecture in here too as well. Now, obviously, this is going to be kind of dated, and it's not going to really pertain to some of the stuff in the class, just so you don't get confused. But other stuff, variables, scopes, he goes over. There's a lot of videos he has in here, a lot of different videos. So hopefully, I can add some dimension to it with some of this. There's a lot. He's got a lot of videos here, which is great. So everything's there. Everything's online, and then. Again, the practice is just the practice. I think I showed you before, different things in there. And then the apply, the actual assignment that I'm asking you to do. This one I'm asking you to, again, typically it's between a couple assignments each week. So 2-1, 2-2, and 2-3. And we'll go through some examples today again. It looks like we did last class. And then we can even get started on 1 or 2 of these. And I'll give you time in class too. Usually I like to try and still give you some time in class. Because again, there's some variable questions that may come up that during class versus just being at home doing that. Okay, and don't forget. Oh wait. So and also the videos I'm recording right now are under lecture videos also there. So you've got videos in the units, and you've got videos here. You've got videos everywhere. It's just a multimedia smorgasbord, all kinds of stuff. So you got everything right there. All right. I know, I know. You want to put it on your phone, you could be riding the train or whatever, doing it. Exactly. So just to get us started, functions, data types, chapter 2, learning about organizing code. A lot of what you do as a developer, hopefully you've learned some of that with maybe other courses, especially like Web 1, is just being organized with where things are. So often, as even in my own experience, I find developers, we make simple mistakes just because we don't find things. We mistype something, syntax errors, things like that. Just being organized is a big part of it. Some of this is about organizing your code using expressions operators, operator precedence. So have you familiarity with functions? You've dealt with functions in other languages, I believe, right? Yeah. So it's the same concept, the same exact concept. And I promise you I won't drive you crazy with the PowerPoint. Again, the whole idea behind a function is you're going to take something that potentially a group of statements that you want to run all at the same time. You want to be able to print something, display information, print out address information, do login information. So typically, it's code that you want to be. Rule of thumb generally as a programmer is when you find you are retyping the same lines of code or copying them into different places in your code, you should never do that. You should always say, okay, as soon as you want to put one set of code somewhere else, also, you say, I should create a function. Okay? Because then what you can do is you put it in one spot, and then I can call that one function from many different places. Now, there's a couple of different ways, a bunch of different ways you can do it in JavaScript. There's three methods of doing that. One is you can actually take a function and you can just throw it right in the code. Boom. You don't call it, it's in the code and it just runs. In here, I was playing with some stuff earlier too. So let's do some stuff here. Oh, this is what I was updating for the class when I was playing with the class. Actually, this is the one I just separate code here. Well, I can show you. Here's the one I can show you here. This one, it's right in here. So this is the most common one. You've got JavaScript right in line here. So I have an input button. It's a submit. And what happens on click? What is it going to do? It's going to do a window.alert, which is just a pop-up. And then you're going to display whatever you want to display in here. Now you got to also be aware that potentially if pop-ups are disabled, things like that on a user's computer, it will not work. Things like that can happen. So again, if I do that and then I go back, if I can find which one I did this, there it is. This is this one. I'll refresh it. That's the page right there. You know, very exciting, but it just tells you right there. There you go. Thanks for your order. I didn't change the title, which I can do. You can change the title. You can do all kinds of stuff with it, but I just wanted something really simple. But it gives me a nice little alert to let me know that that's what happened just by doing that submit button. So it's a very simple function, Windows function. So the onClick, it's using that onClick method to do that. Okay. So let me jump back to this. Yeah. No. So in general, yeah. So different methods of things. So that was a very simplistic function. So I want to execute more things. I can define a function. It can either have a name function or anonymous function. Name function is just like I want to do a name function if I want to call it. Like I was saying, if I've got pieces of code and I want to do something, I want to display something, and I find that I keep wanting to replicate this code elsewhere, I should create that all as one function and then give it a name, like display name, something like that. And then I can call it from someplace else, which I'll do in a second. Like I created a function that I'll show you. Here, I'll just show you. Why don't I just show you what I did? Okay, and we can do this together too. So I created a separate file called myscript.js in Notepad, and you can do this too. And it's just a JavaScript file, and I can call it whatever I want. So it's myscript.js, and we could do another one if you want to, but we'll just do one like this. I can make it bigger too, so you can see it easier. And then I use the actual term function, and then I can call this whatever I want. So in this case, I try to use something descriptive. I say add two numbers. And there is syntax best practice of how you're supposed to name it. Kind of a camel case, you do lowercase, and then you capitalize each of all the subsequent words. In this case, I am passing it parameters. So I'm going to call a function called add two numbers, and I'm going to pass it num1 and num2. Notice in here, I don't tell it what they are. I don't say that they're integers. I don't tell it anything that they are. Then inside my function, I create a variable called total, which is then going to take whatever the value of num1 plus num2. And then when that's done, I'm going to spit it out in document.write, which is what we did. We did that last week. I'm going to print out a string that just says total sum is equal to what? The total. The total is this var that I just created, the values. So just a very simple little function that just adds two numbers up. Like that. Now this function by itself doesn't do anything, right? It doesn't do anything until you actually call it. But the reason I kept saying was, if you want to create, the reason behind creating functions is you want to do something because you're using it all the time. So say I've got all these different areas, it's a financial application or accounting application, and I have to keep adding up two numbers everywhere. I would create this function, or I want to add up three numbers, I'd create another function. But for this case, we'll just stick with this. Are you guys typing it, or I can? I'll do it. I'll show you again. No, that's okay. So I can do this too. I think I can pull this guy out. Let me pull it out. Here, I can pull it out like that. I'll do that. Yeah, we'll keep it as a reference like that. If not, I am nothing if not flexible. Okay. And then I go back to, is it test? Back to test, okay. I'll make this a little smaller. So then you'll notice, one thing you have to notice, again, Cindy Lou updated this, so she should be able to tell us what's going on, right? I won't put you on the spot. So I'm referencing the script. So instead of having a script like I do here, opening tags and closing tags, I actually do script and then I do source, src equals, and then the actual name of the script. So again, it's myscript.js. Now you can put the script wherever you want, but from a path perspective, this is located in the exact folder where this is. So if you see at the top, I've got my stuff in develop, JavaScript there. In fact, I think I have that folder open. Hold on one second. Let me go there. Thought I had it right there. Develop, JavaScript, like there. I'll move that down. So there they are. So I've got myscript.js there and test. So since they're in the same subdirectory, I'm fine. So if you remember back to web programming, you typically wanted stuff in the same folder if you could. If you had an images folder, you had to reference that folder, that subdirectory properly. If you had other folders, you had to reference them. Same concept. It's just it has to know where to look. That's it. For us to make life easier, we'll just put them in the same folder. So I just created this JavaScript one. There they are. There they are. That's why there's no path in there. Here we go. I created two variables. Num1 is 5. Num2 is 6. And then I call add two numbers, num1 and num2. You'll notice it doesn't. It just calls the numbers and it calls it and that's it. So then if I go here, there it is. Total sum is equal to 11, right? If I look there, oops, not that one. It's the other one. I need 4 monitors. Like that, right there. See that? So total sum right there is equal to there, total sum. Now, some people like to use functions to just contain what you're going to do. They don't want to spit stuff out, like document. So what you could do is you could have a return the value back to the calling program, because this is what's called right here. This is your calling program here, because I'm calling the function. That's all. It's a fancy term. And I can have it return that. So I could do this. I could return a value, and then it's going to show you the syntax for that. So you can do, let's see, parameters, functions. Oh, wait. So I will do that in a second. I don't want to jump ahead too fast. I'll be all over the place. So this is where I had the methods. That's why I was thinking methods. The procedures associated, that's why I kept thinking methods. That's what screwed me up. So there's methods, functions. So the name function, which is what I just did, that's a named function right there. I can also take this code and I can do an anonymous function. So it's the related statements, again, with no name assigned. But they only work where you put them in the code. So I could take that code and I could literally just drop them in there. So you use the name function when you want to reuse it. Use anonymous, it's only going to run one time. That's the only difference. That's the big difference between it. Let me record this. This is good. So a question came up was, can we just take what it was up here, this source here, and just put it actually as part of this? So it would include that, but also have this. So you know what we do? We'll try it out. So I'll comment it out, right, left, there, dash, dash, to the end, dash, dash. Okay, so that's commented out, right? Okay. Let's see what happens. I don't know if I've actually tried that. This will be kind of fun. This is why I love. That works, but that disappears. So as soon as you do that, it no like it. Yeah, because I'm doing that script and it's just, yeah. The interesting thing is, though, it doesn't, I'm trying to think, does it call it? It doesn't, no, because if it would call it, it would even get to there. It's doing that script, it's doing that. Here, you could try this here too. Sometimes I'll do this too. I'm old school kind of debugging. Just to see if it even gets, see if it gets there, what it does. No. It really kind of messes it up. But that's a great question, though. No, that's a good question. I like that. Okay, cool. All right, so we know we don't. You want me to actually say, you want me to say something different like that? Oh, okay, N1. You want me to call it N1 and N2? All right, then correct. You got to do that. Correct. Oh, yes, correct. And that is an excellent question. The order of the parameters is important, but the name is independent. It just, I randomly actually created these and I randomly just did num1, num2 because I'm used to doing that and not even realizing it that I actually had named them the same. I didn't even realize I had done that. I was just, I do this. Because like I said, and I can do this too. You can say this is, I can say this instead of N1, I can say 7 and I can say 8. I can literally put a numeric value in there, refresh, and now I should say 15. So it shouldn't make a difference. Just like that, yeah. All right. All it really, yeah. The issue comes in is if you put something like, well, let's see, let's try this. What if I do text, right? This is what we have to do. We'd like to blow things up, don't we? Now here's the, let's try this. I'll do test 1, and I have another idea too. Test 2. No, these are great questions because you run into this stuff all the time, and it drives you crazy. Refresh it. So it concatenates it. It actually just concatenated it because it's a plus. Because if you look in the code, it says num1 plus num. Well, num1 came in as test 1, num2 is test 2. So test 1 plus test 2 is concatenates it, puts it back to back, and then you get test 1 and test 2. Yes. Yeah, it's loosely typed, as we said. We were talking about that, I think, loosely typed, exactly. So it's kind of, yeah, exactly. Now, if I do something like this, and I say N1, I mean, you could play with this all day. You could try this and this and this and see what happens now. It just takes the number and what you do. It says the first one now is a numeric value, and the second one is still a string. And it just again, it cannot do a mathematical operation. It can't do anything else because it's a string and a number. It just says, okay, let me go. Because then I was saying, well, what if you did this too? This will blow your mind. No, it won't blow your mind. So what if you do something like this, right? Will it treat it as a string? So you're thinking it maybe become 11 or 56. Yeah, 56. Yeah. So no, these are great. These are great. Yeah. So because as soon as you put that value of numeric, other languages sometimes will do that, and you can take one, but you still have to do a conversion on it. So other languages will take a 5 or 6 and actual numeric value, even if you put it in quotes, it's like a string. You can convert it. Now, if I do a numeric conversion on something that says quote test, it's going to say I can't convert that to a number. It's not a number. But I can do a numeric conversion of 5 because 5 as a string does end up being a numerical 5. So that kind of throws people off too. But yeah, no, these are great. Because you'll run into weird stuff like this with code all the time. You'd be like, why is this coming as a string? Why is this doing this? And it is. It's like, unless you really understand the data, understanding data is a huge part of the job as a developer. I always say this. I'll leave this record for a second. You may have heard me say this before. So just understanding the business, whatever business you're working for, how the business works, how data works. I said that's how you make yourself something valuable to the company that you're working for, or you want to get a job at, because they can hire anybody to write code. They really can. I mean, they can hire consultants to come in. For years they were hiring people in India. They were paying them. They were just putting outsourcing work. But if you know the company, if you know how business functions go together, you become that much more valuable. It takes years for other people to learn this stuff. And even then, consumers don't care. Consumers just want to come in, do their thing, and get out. Get paid a lot of money, and that's it. That's why, that's the thing. They don't really care about the business. They're just there to do this one function. They learn PeopleSoft really well. They learn certain technologies really well, Oracle, and then that's it. But if you learn the business and you really learn about it, then you say, if we do this to this accounting system, will this be okay? You're like, from my understanding, my experience, this could affect the financial system, it could affect the HR system because these tie in together. Boom. All I can say is when there are layoffs coming through, there's a good chance that you may not be laid off because you know these systems really well. It's a thought, just something to think about. Anyway, I went through that once. I'll start that recording again. And then the anonymous function. So you notice the anonymous function doesn't have a name. It's just function and then blah, 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 and then statements. So we could literally take the function we just did and throw it in here as this, if you want to. Again, you can do the parameters, how we did the same way. So what if I did that? What if I take the function I just did? What if I take this, copy it, and what if I just do this? I'm going to make this a little bit out. So I'm going to comment this out. And in here, I'm going to do this. Give me a second to fix the formatting. And then I get rid of this, like that. So they're saying I should be able to do that, right? It's just a function that's not named. And then there it is. Number one of this. Let's see if that works. So it should end up being, what, 5 and 6 again? Let's change this to, like, I don't know, 7 and 8 to make it so we know it worked. So that should, well, num1, num2, no, because you're adding, it doesn't matter. But typically, you got to be careful of your parameters. Because you, I think you put very, yeah. No, no, don't be sorry. No, you declare those. Well, let's see what happens. Did that work? Yeah, that did that. So did that work how we thought it was going to work? So I got nothing coming out. No, I got the 56 come out. So N1 came in there, N2 came in there, that came in there. So 8 and 7. Oh, you see what happened? Because somebody made me change the names. There's one more. It's a lot of extra work now. Sum, total. Yeah, there we go. Will that work? No. So I'm coming in, I've got the variable, I've got the function. Let's see here, let me pause. We talk about accessing different, I'm using the book example here. Where is it? Is it right? There it is. Fantrick. It's under chapter 2. It's the estimated HTML file. So if you've downloaded the student data files, so under student data files, data files, chapter 2 for this one. Under chapter, this is where I pulled it up, estimate, which is what shows up here in the book, photography. And what they were going to do is they want to show you, right now there's nothing that happens. The idea is you're going to be able to click on these and change these. And then what will happen is there'll be a total down here that will update with JavaScript, which we'll do. So just kind of giving you an idea of what's going on with that for this estimate. The book has it on page 77. They kind of show you what's going on with that. What I want to talk about also, let's do this. One more thing. You had the reset. Was there a reset on here? No. So one thing they wanted to do is you can do a reset, and you can reset these fields. So like, and it's very common. I come in here, I start making all kinds of changes, whatever the case may be is. Normally on the form, most, like if you remember from the web pages, web forms would have a default, a reset, either submit or reset or like a cancel, and it would cancel anything that you did. And then, so that's the idea behind some of this too. And so they tell you, they give you the script, and actually all you really need to do, and they show you in the book about creating a function called reset form. So actually in the chapter, actually I don't know if it's in here. I think they want you to type it. It should be empty. There you go. So they have you create a new JavaScript file under here in chapter 2. And I can show you, I mean, again, it's in the book. It's function, we're going to call it, again, reset form. That's it. Again, there's no parameters. Function, open curly, close curly, and then I can put whatever I want. The idea is I want you to know when you're getting the elements, so document, and we can try it. Let's see, document, get element by ID. If you're not sure, you can always go back to it. So I need to get the element, quote. I can go back to estimate, and I can go here, get the ID right there, boom. So I can play with it. Photographers is this one. That's this element right here, what I'm looking at. So if I want to, I can go look at that. I got that, and then I can go to here, and I can put that in there. I'm big on copying and pasting. That way I don't make mistakes. Of course, if you don't have all the files open, you close that, and then it's dot value. And what they want you to do is, this is a reset form, so you're going to set it. So for this is the number, what are they saying? It's the number of photographers, 1 to 4, so they want you to reset it to 1 as the default. I'm going to put 1 in, just to have 1 by itself. I mean, you could do it, we could do them all. There's a bunch if you want to. I just want to see it. We want to see if it will work. Okay. And that's it. So they're gonna. That's part of what. So what I'm gonna have to do now is I have the script. The script by itself won't do anything. On this form, what I'm gonna have to do then is I'm gonna have to create. Let me do this. I'll make it a little bit smaller. So then I'm gonna have to create a button down here to reset. So I'll have a total, but I'll. Or you can just call it actually. So, but then the idea again is I have that, I can go through and boom, that gets all reset. I'll tell you what, let me stop that. Okay, so I mean, you get the idea. And like I said, the book kind of shows you this. You can reset all your values. I did the reset form here. So then the next thing is what you'll have to do is you'll actually call this when you want to actually reset these, which eventually we'll do as well. And the book kind of goes through some of that. Yeah, so calling functions. Okay, so one thing we did earlier, we specify a function as a value for an HTML attribute, and we did that earlier, specifying the function. That was wasn't this one. Actually, I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna put these back together. It was helpful for what we're doing, but now it's easier to just have them in the same file. Okay. This test. There we go. So here we go. So the Windows alert. So this is one way of doing a function, right? You're all in the same line, and that's all that's saying. So that's one way of doing it. It specifies an HTML attribute. That's all. Other ways, you can also do specify a function as a property value for the object. So I can do, again, use the document.getElementById. In this case, I do the submit button. So it references a submit button. I would have a submit button on the form. And then in that case, it's going to say, what are you going to do? On click method, that value, I'm specifying a value for that. It's going to then do show message. So it's going to show some message, whatever the message is. In the case of what I was just doing, was I was just saying, thanks for your order. That was my message. That's all that's saying. And then finally, probably the most common way of doing it, and they recommend it, probably is using an event listener. You do add event listener method. So you create a variable, and then what the benefit of that is, again, you can put it wherever you want. You have a listener, it's always going. You can kind of put that where you want to do it. So those are the 3 ways of calling functions in JavaScript. Again, the first one, again, it's simple. It doesn't matter. It just depends on your situation. But the listener is kind of the big one, and a lot of languages have that. They have a listener. So what they do is they set up these listeners at the start of the application, the program, and then it's just there. It's just going. So it just whatever the user ends up doing or not doing, then it reacts accordingly. Very exciting. Okay, sorry. Anyway. And as it says, so an event listener is the most flexible. It separates, again, it's separating the HTML code from the JavaScript code. So again, I can put that stuff in my JS file, my JavaScript file, just like my function, or this one, I can do the reset form. Again, it's in a separate file. You want to separate the JavaScript from the HTML whenever possible. Again, do you have to do that? No, you don't have to do that, but it just makes it easier. Now they do have some references to IE8, which I don't think anybody uses anymore, so apologies. Kind of referencing some old stuff. And what they use is attach event, so I wouldn't worry about that. That's pretty old. Here. I'll do what we just did to make a return statement. So where's my code? Is this my test? All right. So I'm going to go to my code here. All right. So what I'll do is I'll create a value here. I'll do total here. So var total. I'll do it this way. Var total is equal to, so whatever is in there is going to shove it back to there. And then I'm going to say document that, right? Total. Guess I could have just copied it from the other script, right? Plus total, like so. Close it off. Okay, so I have that, right? So all I did was add a var and total on the front end equals. So whatever happens to this function here, it will take that result and then boom, put it in total there. And then I'll spit it out. So now I have to go to where this is, which is in my script, right? Yep, because I'm using my script. Go to my script. So now what I'm going to do is I've got the var total. I'm going to comment this out. I don't need to do that. I can leave it. It's not going to hurt anything. But now I just do return. Total. Just like that. So now that should work, right? Because you notice I'm not printing it here anymore. That's gone. So if it does work, this should return that value. Go back to the calling program. This is the calling program. And it should put it back in there and then spit it out. Change the variable. Oh, you want me to change these? Sure. About like 10 and 20? I'll do that. 10 and 18. You betcha. No, it's a good idea. So yeah, so total is now 18. Versus just, it just depends on what the function you want to do. Typically, for that. Okay. They get into scope. You did this other languages. Do you guys remember scope from other languages? Similar type of concept. It's wherever the variable, where is it going to use. So global, you declare it outside of a function and it's available to all the code. So when I have this variable created in here in a function, it's only in that code. So my script, I created this function in here, it's only to this. So this total here is actually different from this total here, right? Those are completely different variables. And the best way that I like to think about it is, it's actually when you do this, when you initialize a variable like this in any language, including JavaScript, it creates a memory location in your computer. So when I do this here, this is a memory location. I call this, it goes to this script. Hey, it created another memory location. And these are separate memory locations. So they're not the same. And that's how that works. So I can have the same variable name. To us, they look identical. But to the script itself, it doesn't know that. It doesn't see that. So it doesn't make a difference. And again, there's all different ways you can play with it. And then local variables, again, is just declared inside the function. And again, they cease to exist when this function is done, this add two numbers function is done, this goes away. Boom. So it could be a little confusing sometimes if you do have the same variable. So you might want to think about that. Again, just by happenstance, I did use the same variable again. That's just kind of, total is total kind of thing. So just, again, something to think about when you're doing some stuff. I try to do different variable names just to also know where I am in my programs, things like that. But that's all that's going on there. Okay, variable, we did that. There's a lot of functions that are built in. I'm not going to bore you with some of this. Some of this is, whether or not value is a special value, whether or not it's infinite. You can parse values. There's a lot of different built-in functions. I'm not going to play with a lot of these just for sake of time because I want to get to some other stuff. So data types. We've been talking about data types, and we're going to come back to the handlers. We're going to do some more with that. I want to talk about some data types. So number, which is what we have been working with a lot because you're adding stuff, abstracting. So a lot of things you can do. Positive or negative, with or without a decimal place. So it could or could not maybe have it. You've heard of other ones like floats and doubles and that, right? It's decimal place. So a number could have that. It just depends on how you define it, right? I just haven't been doing it. Boolean, okay. String, we've been doing that one. Undefined, it doesn't exist. And null value is empty value. So a lot of the similar data types that you're used to seeing, that you've come to know and love, right? They're primitive. They're assigned a single value, very primitive data types. So again, I don't think it's anything, all right, this is why I'm kind of going through some of this a little quick. Null values, you comfortable with null values, what it is? Typically, I know anytime like you think about a database, you create a new database, a new table, almost all the data in there is all null. There's nothing there. It means it has no value. And you can, if something had a value in it, you can always also change it to a null value. So a lot of people will do that. They'll take something like this and they'll say, so here, let's just do something like this. Let me try something. Here, let's do this. I'm going to call this twice. All right, let's do this. I'm going to do total 2. I'll use that. I'm going to call it total 2, and we'll do total 2. But this time I'm going to send, I'll say n2 is equal to null. See what happens. So I had my 18, it did that. I added 2 numbers. N1 is there, N2 is there. All right, so that worked. So, okay, so N1 is 2, N2 is null. I add the 2 numbers, and it just left me with a 2. Whereas again, when I had this as 1, I refreshed that, and that became a 3. Okay, so that worked fine. So that's all. So it's nothing. So part of the reason I wanted to show that and try that with you is also sometimes if you try to add null values or do anything with a null value, it blows up. Some languages will blow up. They can't handle that. So JavaScript is very forgiving. So just be careful if you try something like that in another language and you're getting data from a database or something like that, or you're playing with your program, you say, oh, it's a null value, it's okay. It may blow up on you, not realizing it. Because I've had situations with looking at data like that. Just something to keep an eye out for. In this case, it says, oh, okay, I can only do that, and fine. So crazy stuff. All right. No usable data type. We know that, right? Yeah, so again, it's nice. It's actually nice. So there's some languages that are not so nice. So again, loose type, strong type programming languages require language declarations, and then this is what's called a loose type language, kind of dynamically typed, which is good and bad. Which is good and bad because when you spend a lot of time in a language like JavaScript, you get lazy. Oh, I don't need to care, integer, string, whatever it is, I'll just do it on the fly. But then when you go to another language like C# or PHP or some other ones, not necessarily PHP as much, well, PHP too, they require you to define your data type. Otherwise, it has a problem with it. It doesn't like that. So just things to think about. Things to think about. Okay. Different, so the interpreter, there it goes, just like I was showing you. Different types of databases, it shows you all that stuff. Okay. Numeric, Boolean, blah, 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 blah. Working with strings. Okay, positive or negative. So yeah, I don't think I need to spend a lot of time on some of this. I think I mean, again, you can create this stuff and you can decide what's going on. If you've got a value, all it does is spit out what it is. So new customer, and it just spits out whether it's true or false. I mean, that's as simple as it gets. So once you define it that way, so you notice you don't say Boolean, you actually say var value and then the variable, and you say whether it's true or false, which is interesting. It doesn't say Boolean, it's just true or false. So again, just like the other ones, you say whether or not right away it's an integer, you just give it the value, and right away it just interprets it, what it is. Same with floating point. So if I do a floating point, how does that work? So if I do 2.34 and 1.657, I have no idea what that's going to be. Oops, I don't want to do that. I keep doing that. And I get a nice little decimal. So it takes what I have. If I just have a whole number and a decimal, okay, it says okay. Now it's 4 point, so it'll take it. It's not a problem. And again, like before, if I change this, no cat, dog. Sorry. I have nothing against cats. It concatenates it, right? So if you start getting some weird data somewhere about something, you're not sure why you're getting it, just with all the strings. We've been doing this. You've already seen this concatenation with the strings. You've been seeing some of this stuff working with strings. You can build expressions. Again, you have all the different operators. I can add, subtract, I can do division, incrementing, anything you can do. So a lot of the different math functions you can do in JavaScript. It's very powerful. I can keep adding stuff. I can do exponents. I can assign values. A lot of different things I can do. And again, all the code that we've been doing right now, I've just been doing everything as addition. Very simple stuff. But again, I can subtract, I can do division. So you can do some real sophisticated stuff in here. It just depends. But then you have to also think about, depending on how sophisticated you get, how complex you want this to be, right? It becomes a balance of how much code you want to put in the JavaScript, because you could do a whole bunch of stuff versus actually maybe doing it properly in a different avenue. Now, you may not have a choice because it's HTML, it's web, but it's a balance, as you probably know, being a web developer versus a traditional Windows or client developer. Because if the person requires you to do a website, there's certain limitations, certain restrictions. But if you say, I want to develop this in Windows or something like that, which gives you a more robust set of tools, I can do things a lot differently than web. Because some things you cannot do on the web as nicely and sophisticated. There's applications out there. So when you see an application on the web that you go onto, like your banking application, things like that, you're doing basic stuff, right? It's doing addition, subtraction, multiplication. It's doing a lot of that stuff, but it's not very, the sophisticated stuff is doing on the back end with the server, doing stuff like that. But they have their own in-house systems that are doing stuff on real big computers. They're not using browsers for that. So a lot of the times you get a project, you might, it's deciding, can I do this on the web? Right? Oh, I can do this in JavaScript. But then you start to get into it. Once you get into the weeds, is this really what you want to do? It's just things to think about. And that's your part as an analyst. So you're a developer or programmer analyst. You shouldn't just be a programmer. Because again, You don't want to just be a code monkey where you can just sit there and just turn out code, because anybody can do that. You also have to analyze. I had a project where it was talking too much. All right. So all these are all different operators. Again, you can do all this different stuff. You can add stuff, assign. These are assignments. We've been doing this stuff. Different users, things like that. Comparisons, all kinds of exciting stuff. Okay. All right. Boolean comparisons. Remember these? The ands, the ors, the nots, the Boolean comparisons. Okay. Yeah. All right. I probably just I wouldn't bore you with the. So the other thing I wanted to show you is, well, let me pause for a second. All right. So Control Shift J will give me the console. That's what that's saying right there, and I can customize it. Go to Tools and then click JavaScript Console. Am I seeing Tools? That's Settings. Sources. So I can check my JavaScript there. Different elements. It's my console. That's my source. So they had it with, you can look at the actual line numbers if you had errors. So what they said was we'd do something like this. Let's try this. So if I take this, I'll make it bigger. Let me go into my code here. I'll make an obvious mistake. Let's make it work here. Let's do that. Let's refresh this. Let me do this. Let me change this to make it a little bit cleaner. Clean that up a little bit. Give it a couple breaks here. Make some spaces. Let's refresh this. There we go. Okay. So that worked there. But now let me mess it up. See with the console, if I do this now, and if let's miss a semicolon. What if I do that? So what happened there? That didn't break. Total equals total 2. 5.23. That still worked. That's interesting. Look at that. If I oh wait, what if I get rid of parentheses? If I got rid of something like that? Now it broke. It's interesting that that still worked. All right, so as soon as I got rid of the parentheses, without the semicolon, it put the semicolon in there for me. Oh, is it so nice? I accidentally forgot the parenthesis, and then it goes and says missing after argument test 33. And it shows me my line. So I can expand this out more if I want to. You can play with this. So it's kind of nice. You've got some built-in debugging. So what I did to do the debugging in Chrome, I'm in Chrome, is Control, Shift, and J in Windows. And it shows you the different options. On the Mac, it's something different. Firefox is different. If you use Internet Explorer. No. This is like, well, yeah, no. I mean, now you could do that. Now, what if I do inspect? It's kind of the same, but kind of different. I'm in a different. Right there, yeah. And it shows it down here. Pull it home now. Yeah, so I set the breakpoint by clicking there. I can move it up, but I set it there. You can set multiples. It stopped there. Apparently, I just had to type the name of the variable that I wanted. So I wanted total 3 to see what it ended up being. I can also hover over it. And total 3 is equal to the contents of the function return 5 plus 5. That way. Interesting. Interesting. So that's that. Okay, so uncaught. That's fine. And then I can resume the script. I just hit plus and it'll just keep going. So it's still spinning that. So it's just giving me the literal value of that function. This, and we'll start with 1. I'll go into my script here. I'm going to open this up. I'll make this bigger. Let's see. I might cheat a little bit, but we'll see. Oh, they want to use, open up index. They're giving us a hand. Open up index HTML from the hands-on project 2.1. So now I've already downloaded that. So if I back up and go to data files, chapter 2, so hands-on project 2-1. And then I've got index, modernizer, and styles. I'm going to make a copy of this just so I don't screw something up. Well, I will screw something up, but just all right. So I'm going to open this one in that notepad. There we go. So here we go. So there's the script. They give us, again, here's the structure, just like before. Hands-on project, again, put your name. Oh, I can't use that. I've got to use this thing. Do either of you know Slarty Bartfast? Slarty Bartfast? It's I'll be nice. It's a character from a movie, from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy book, a movie. If you're ever into that kind of wacky stuff, it's kind of goofy. Just a character in there named that. I find the name kind of weird. So I'm gonna look at this and see what we got. So index, how does this look? So what does it look like? There we go. Oh, okay. So they really build a lot for you, which is nice. They don't want you to spend a lot of time building the whole interface. So again, the idea is you're going to put something in here, click on that, and it should put something in here. Okay. That's not too bad. So really, we're just creating the scripts. And there you go, Fahrenheit to Celsius converter. Okay. So let's see, at the bottom of the document, and you're probably doing this already, before the closing tag, before the body. Okay. They want us to put the script at the bottom. Which, okay, that's fine. We'll do script at the bottom. Close that off. We've got that. We'll put that there like that. Okay. I don't know why. When I tab, usually I should tab 3 spaces, and why everything's off. I don't know what that is. If I do this, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Huh. 1, 2, 3. No, something's not right. Okay. Within the script, create. Okay, create a function. Hey, we did that function. Convert. Open curly. Close curly. Okay, what we got going on here? Var degree F. Document. Dot get element by ID. Okay, and what do they want you to get? F value. F value is right up here. Right there in your HTML. So I'm just going to copy and paste that. And dot value. And then we're going to do Celsius. And do the calculation. I never have this memorized. DEG. So it's Fahrenheit minus 32 times 5 divided by 9. And then document get element by ID. So C value, which is this guy, here's C value. Just going to put that in there. So I'm going to assign that with using the inner HTML command, property, attribute, and whatever degree is there. Getting a value, I'm putting that in there. Okay. So I should be able to refresh this. I'm going to refresh this. If I enter my 32 in here, I can type it, convert it. It didn't work. Well, of course it didn't work, you knucklehead, because I didn't call it. I created the function, but I didn't call it. All right. So I have a function, just like it says. I assigned it the value, blah, blah, blah. All right, so what I have to do then, it says before the closing brace, before this curly brace, for the convert function, below the closing brace, right there, but before the closing script, so below that, you enter a tag. So we're going to enter a listener. So we do a document, .get element by ID. This time it's going to be a button. Okay, dot add event listener. Add event listener. Like so. Click. Okay. Convert. False. Did I do that right? Okay. All right. Okay, so we've got that, we've got the element, we've got that.